Greetings. I am Mason Weaver. I am the founder of Leave the Plantation organization. I'm the author of It's Okay to Leave the Plantation. The Leave the Plantation organization is a group of people who have had enough. No more division. No more division. We're tired of it, we're done with it, and we're going to announce the end of it. Dividing America along racial, economical, and educational lines continues the mentality of distrust. That is liberalism. Liberalism is an abusive belief system. Abused people support their abuser. And liberalism knows the more they oppress you, the more they abuse you, the more you're going to support them. And that's why they're in the business of misery and poverty and hatred and division. Abused people support their abuser. They defend them against their rescuers until they get enough. We have had enough. Most black and white Americans support many of the social, economical, political ideas that make up the American culture. We support school vouchers, Social Security reform, the elimination of the death tax, the elimination of the marriage tax penalty. We support lower taxes overall, fair and equal competition, not preferential quotas, less government regulations and controls, conservative values, marriage between a natural-born man and a natural-born woman, not a man-made man and a man-made woman, but a natural-born woman and man. Marriage between men and women only. Pro-life. Those are the beliefs of Americans, the American culture, the Western culture. It is a belief system that has made us the greatest culture in the history of mankind, and we will not surrender it to daydreamers. But the problem is, most of the liberal black and white America is trapped in a mindset of slavery, on a plantation of government dependency and lies. I have demonstrated that the Leave the Plantation organization can deliver an effective message. And only those who want freedom will respond. Those who will not will hate us and call us names. But I'm interested in those who want to come out of the abuse. The new Underground Railroad can be established by a group of individuals and organizations that believe in the same ideas and goals. An underground system of sending Leave the Plantation speakers across the country to speak to groups on universities, college campuses, inner city areas, churches, civic groups, and businesses. We will organize them. We can help them. We can establish a grassroots presence and a movement through which information can be readily flow. Information frees you. Information frees the soul. Information gives you a pathway to freedom. That's why the liberal left hates information. They hate the truth. They only want to disrupt the truth, call you names, get you off your path, get you to defend yourself, because truth will free their slaves from slavery and from them. They do not want that, and they will always fight that. Let's stop fighting them and start freeing those who want to be free. The American culture was founded out of despair and hopelessness and abuse. We, at the Leave the Plantation organization, have had enough. Now, Indians' rights in our history, Indian rights were far from reality. Women's rights to vote was not even a thought. And the plight of black people was in the hands of the abuser. Therefore, it took something. It took people. Politically, everyone was looking for the best compromise to avoid making decisions. No one wanted to confront. No one wanted to stand before. No one wanted to go against the strong political forces on both sides of the issues. They were afraid. That is their weapon, the only weapon liberals have. Fear of being called a name, fear of being protested against, fear of being confronted, fear of losing your job, fear of their power, fear of the military. They can only control you by fear. The American public was being told that to think and to think and feel based upon location and race and faith, that no one was standing up to the principles of righteousness. We were told that righteousness was wrong, that it was illegal to bring God into political discussion. That's because politics is their God. And they don't want another God in there. They want you to put your God aside and not bring your God here to politics. They want you to stop depending on God, depending on them. That is the spirit of liberalism. It was a battle of spirits then, and it's the same battle and the same spirit now. It took a spirit of freedom to combat, and we need the same spirit of freedom to come to our aid again. The spirit of freedom stands against the spirit of slavery, discrimination, hatred, and misery. It stands up against the spirit of defeat and despair, dependency and depression. The forces of oppression have always been met by a spirit of freedom. It stood up in history at the right time for the right causes. It responded not to the needs of certain people or groups, but the requirements of society and sanity. It stood in the pathway to destruction, slavery, and death. It was the spirit of freedom that freed us. A spirit of freedom for good and righteousness. We are not ashamed of that spirit of freedom. It came to free my ancestors. It came to free others from oppression in Europe. We're not afraid. We're not ashamed of the spirit of freedom. The spirit of freedom caused our founders to cross the ocean to escape. The spirit of freedom is what we need today. The spirit of freedom continues to guide America to a place of perfection. Now, we're not going to be perfect. We're humans. But we are going to be striving to perfection until the perfect one comes back. Being human, we call it multiculturalism. The same spirit. It's a spirit of the division while speaking of unity, of hatred while speaking of love, and dependency, yet speaking of independence. The same spirit with the same deception and the same lies. And you can only surrender your power to it. It cannot take your power. It cannot conquer you. You can only surrender your power to it. However, the spirit of freedom, which stirred in the hearts of that first meeting of the abolitionists, still beats in our hearts today. We are their pedigreed, lovers of liberty, freedom, family, and honor. When the world needed us, we showed up. We've always win when we show up. The fear of the oppressor is that one day, again, we will show up. It is time that we showed up. The oppressed are afraid. They're afraid to face the forces of the oppressor. They've been taught and educated and demonstrated that they have no power against them. The oppressed do not think they can win against such a force. What they are looking for, those that are frightened and scared but still want freedom, those who are oppressed but still seek freedom, those who are beaten down but still want to stand up, what they are looking for is a force capable and standing with them and for them. what they are looking for, what they are waiting for. And what they need is a spirit of freedom. So let's just stand up. Stand up. Stand up against overtaxation, overregulation, overbearing government. Stand up. Stand up against the management of every aspect of your life. Who will stand? Who will stand for dignity and honor and hope? Who will stand for passion, love, and family? Who will stand for those too weak and too frightened to stand for themselves? The spirit of freedom will stand. The spirit of freedom will again come to the gap and push back. We cannot do this alone. This is a spiritual battle we're fighting, and we can only fight it with the spirit of freedom. The spirit of freedom will give America the same old choice, the same old choice we've always had, the same old choice we've had since our beginning, the same choice that made us stand up and face east and stare down the King of England. The same choice is for all of us. The spirit of freedom will give us that choice of all slaves. America knows that no one can be free until all of us are free, and the spirit of freedom will stand tall for freedom. They know that it's either freedom for all or slavery for all. That is our only choice, America. The spirit of freedom will be clear. The spirit of freedom will win because freedom is natural. So when they hear the rumbling of our nation, let them know it is the spirit of freedom, and we want our nation